So, first problem ng rectilinear motion. Rectilinear. A race car is trailing along a straight road with its position given as st equals 50 t squared minus 150t. Ang pinapahanap ay yung vt and at at 5 seconds. So, since given ka na ng st, pwede ka lang mag-derivative hanggang sa makuha mo yung requirements. So, at, derivative nito, derivative of st over dt with respect to time. Tapos, magiging vt equals 100t minus 150. Tapos, derivative mo ulit yung velocity para makuha yung acceleration mo. Vt derivative equals 100. Ito yung acceleration mo with respect to time. Ngayon, pwede mo siyang pwede mong i-substitute yung 5 seconds tapos nakuha mong equation. So, substitute 100 times 5 minus 150 is equal to 500 minus 150, 350. Meron kang 350 meters per second. So, ito yung final answer mo. 350 meters per second para din sa velocity, tapos 100 meters per second para sa acceleration, meters per second squared. Okay. Next question, yung projectile. Okay. Ito yung solution. Pangat ng camera ko. Yan. So, next question, projectile. Projectile motion. So, a ball is thrown upwards straight down, so 90 degrees at a speed of 10 meters per second. If air resistance is to be neglected, then what would be its final velocity at 3 seconds? So, at 3 seconds. So, diba meron tayong tatlong equation para sa projectile motion? So, ang gagamitin natin dito, since given ka ng VI, given ka ng gravity, syempre may gravity ka kasi free falling nga siya. Tapos, meron kang time na 3 seconds. Ang pwede mong gamitin is yung VF equals VI minus gravity times time. So, since hinahanap yung final velocity, substitute lang. Ang VI ko ay 10 minus 9.81 times 3. Ayan. ang makukuha mo sagot is negative 19.43. Bakit negative? Kasi pababa siya. Yung final velocity niya ay pababa. Yun. So, next question. Normal and tangential components. Yan. A car is originally in rest. It then traveled the circular path of p equals 67 meters with its velocity is equal to 0.3 t squared meters per second. Find the magnitudes of the velocity and acceleration of the car at t equals 5 seconds. Okay. So, yung kailangan mo lang gawin dito is meron kang velocity ng 0.3 t squared. Substitute mo muna yung time dun. So, v equals 0.3 t squared. 0.3 times 5 squared is equal to 7.5 meters per second. Ito na yung velocity mo. Tapos, i-compute mo yung tangential pati yung normal component. Computing, makukuha mo sa tangential. At paano nga ba muna makuha yung tangential component? Derivative mo lang yung velocity equation mo, which is yung 0.3 t squared, makukuha mo yung 0.6 t as acceleration equation. Tapos, substitute mo yung given time, which is 5, no? 5. So, makukuha mo sagot sa tangential component ay 3 meters per second squared. Yan. Tapos, sa normal component naman, yan. Sa normal component, gagawin mo yung velocity equation squared na yun over dun sa p, which is yung 67 meters. So, makukuha mong sagot dun an acceleration due to normal 0.840 meters per second squared. Tapos, para mahanap yung magnitude ng acceleration, kunin mo yung square root of the squares ng tangential and normal component. Yung makukuha mo doon is 3.115 meters per second squared. So, yun yung final answer mo. Yun na yung magnitudes of the velocity and acceleration at 5 seconds. Okay. Tapos, next. Rectangular components. Ito. So, for rectangular components, yung question is, Andre's curvilinear motion is described by Vx equals 35 minus 10t and y equals 50 minus 2t squared. It is also known that when t is equal to 0, nasa origin daw siya. Calculate Andre's velocity and acceleration when the position of the vertical origin is reached. So, una, gawin mo, solve mo muna yung x. So, solve natin. Solving for x, meron kang Vx, 35 minus 10t. Yan. So, in dx, derivative mo yung velocity equation mo. Yan. Para maging x na lang siya. Vx dt. Yan. i-integrate mo pala siya. Integrate mo para makuha yung AX. Ayan. Para makuha mo yung X pala, hindi AX. Ayan, sorry. So, yung saan na tayo? Kukunin mo yung derivative ng Vx para maging X na lang siya. So, maging 35t minus 10t squared na siya. Ay, 5t squared. Ayan. At 10. Dapat 10 to. 10. 10t.
Huwag mo nang papakainin yung aso ng hapon, ha?
Sorry. So, 35t minus 10. Minus 10t. Ayan. Tapos kukunin mo yung derivative ng AX mo. Yung VX. Which is 35 minus 10t. So, makakuha mo dun is AX. Negative 10 meters per second squared. AX equals negative 10 meters per second squared. Once makuha mo yun, pwede mo nang isolve yung 1. Resolving for horizontal vector. Solving for 1. Solving for 1. So, y is equal to 50 minus 2t squared. Ayan. Kung meron kang given equation ng y. So, gawin mo lang din yung derivative mo. Yung derivative mo siya. So, vy minus 4t squared. Ito yung position ay yung velocity mo. Kasi from position, yung derivative mo yung velocity. Tapos derivative mo ulit siya para mga si ay which is negative 4 meters per second squared. Susunod yung determining of exact vertical and horizontal components. Lalo mo dito kunin mo yung time sa isang equation, yung ginamit ko is yung y. Tapos, equate mo siya sa 0. So, value 0 equals 50 minus 2t squared. Tapos, yung time ko is 5 seconds. So, yung makuha kong time dito is 5 seconds. Tapos, yung makuha mong time, substitute mo naman sa mga equation na nakuha mo for Vx and Vy. Kapag sinubstitute mo yung 5 seconds sa Vx, ang makukuha mo sa sagot ay negative 10, negative 15 meters per second. So, okay lang kahit negative. Kasi, kukunin mo naman yung square root of the squares nila para mahanap mo yung exact location. So, Vy, substitute mo rin sa Vy na negative 15 squared ay, negative 4 pa. Negative 4 times 5 which is negative 20 meters per second. Kasi nga, after nun, para makuha mo yung exact value ni Andre, yung gagawin mo, square root of the squares ng Vx at Vy. So, negative 15 squared minus 20 squared, square root ng lahat. Makuha mo yung sagot ay 13.229 liters per second. Tapos, yun din yung gagawin mo para sa acceleration. Yun rin yung square root of the squares ng acceleration. So, square root ng negative 10 squared plus negative 4 squared. Nakuha mo sagot ang 9.165 meters per second squared. So, yung final answer. yan niya yung velocity and acceleration when the position, the vertical origin, y equals 0 is reached. Okay, tapos na rectangular components. Next is cylindrical components. Yan. Halfway through. Cylindrical components. Yan. So, question dito is, a rotating Gundam is rotating with a constant angular position of theta is equal to 1.3p raised to 4 over 5 4/5 meters as it shoots out a ball with a position of r equals 0.070 cube meters. So, question is, find the magnitude of velocity and acceleration of the ball when t is equal to 4 seconds. Bali, ang gagawin mo lang dito sa cylindrical components is binigyan ka ng so, binigyan ka ng time, binigyan ka ng mga equation. So, substitute mo muna yung time. Okay. Substitute mo muna yung time dun sa 1.3p raised to 4 over 5. Makuha mo sagot is 4.48 meters. Tapos, kapag dinerivative mo siya, yung derivative ng theta na yun, bali, so 1.3 times 4 over 5. May, tapos yung t raised to 4 over 5 minus 1. Tapos, substitute mo ulit yung 1. Substitute mo ulit yung time. Makukuha mo sagot is r prime is equal to 3.36 meters per second. Tapos, same thing. Pag nag-r double prime ka na, so, kung makukuha mo sagot is 1.68 meters per second squared. So, meters per second squared kasi galing ka sa distance, galing ka sa S, pumunta ka sa velocity, kaya meters per second yung r prime, tapos yung derivative yung velocity, kaya napunta ka sa acceleration. Ayan. Tapos next is ayun, yung theta na. So, 1.3p 4 over 5. Ganun din. So, substitute derivative. Tapos, after mong makuha yung prime and double prime ng parehong equations, pwede mo na silang square root of the squares. Tapos, ang makuha mong sagot is 4.873 meters per second. Meters per second kasi velocity yung harap. Yep. At may acceleration. Velocity ang dapat. Okay. Next. Meron tayong absolute dependent motion. Absolute dependent motion. Yan. So, in situation daw, Andre is trying to pull up a container from the ground in order to get it up to the platform where a person is waiting in order to grab it. If he starts from rest, when nag-start daw siya ng rest, from rest, when xa equals 0, he pulls the container by walking backwards in a constant acceleration. The acceleration niya is 0.17 meters per second squared. Find the speed of the container at yb equals 12 meters. Then, yung xa is equal to 0. Note, yung xa mo is 0, yb is equal to 20 meters. Yung yb is yung vertical height ng building. Tapos yung xa is yung position under from the container. Tapos yung rope daw ay 30 meters long. So, solution. equation. Yung equation na gamitin mo is VA squared minus VO equals 2 times acceleration times XA minus XO. So, since yung VO mo is 0, and then yung given yung acceleration mo, substitute ka lang. Then, ayun, kapag nakuha mo na yun, ayun yung equation 1 mo. Tapos, para mahanap mo si XA, gagawin mo, AC squared, magpipythagorean ka. Basically, pipythagorean mo yung sa rope, at yung sa position ni Andre from the container. And so ayan, dapat na 12 to, no? Wait lang, mali ito. Dapat 12 squared to. 12 squared. Hindi siya 20 squared. Ayan. So, merong mali sa situation kanina. Dapat yung YB is 8 meters lang. Hindi dapat siya naging 12 meters. Explain ko kung bakit pinawal. So, kanina nandun na tayo sa paghahanap ng XA, to find XA. So, para mahanap mo si XA, magpipythagorean ka lang. Pipythagorean mo yung triangle na napo-form ng paghila ni Andre dun sa container. So, ACCB, tapos XA. Since given naman yung YB mo, which is 8 squared, so maging 8 squared siya. So maging L equals AC plus YB. So para mahanap mo hanapin muna natin si L. So para si AC, hanapin muna natin si AC. Yan. AC. Yan. Dahil ito yung parang L equals S plus 1B. AC. Wait lang, inayot ito mo konti. Yan. So, yan. AC equals XA squared plus YB. So, ito yung ito yung way para mahanap mo yung AC mo. So, para ma-solve mo si XA squared, di ba dalawa yung wala mo? Wala kang XA squared, wala kang AC squared. So, hanapin mo muna si AC, which can be found by yung length ng meter, ng length ng rope, equate na siya sa yung AC plus yung YB mo. So, maging 30 yung length ng rope, which is 30, is equal to AC plus 20. Kapag tinranspose mo yung 20, makakuha ka ng AC equals 10. Yung 10 meters. Yan. So, meron na AC. So, ngayon, pwede mo nang substitute yung AC na nakuha mo dun sa original equation mo na naghahanap sa XA, which is AC squared. Substitute natin. So 10 squared equals XA squared plus YB, which is 8 squared. Pag inipot mo siya sa calculus, kung sagot ay XA equals 6 meters. Yun. So, ngayon, kaya pinalitan ko yung situation. Kasi kanina, 12 yung YB ko. So, ang 12 yung YB ko, kapag nag-Pythagorean ako, which is 12 squared, 10 squared minus 12 squared, hindi ko siya makukuha na ng sagot. Since imaginary siya, negative. Bawal ka mag-square root ng negative, diba? So, kaya ko siya ginawang 8 squared. So, ayan. So, VA, next, balik ka dun sa equation mo na VA minus 0 equals 2 times 0.17 times 6. Yung 6 mo, ayun yung XA mo. Naku na XA. So, kaya natin nahanap si XA para i-substitute dito sa equation na to. So, ayun. So, bali, VA is equal to the square root of 2 times 0.17 times 6. Makuha mo sagot dito ay VA is equal to 1.428 meters per second. Yan. Okay. So, ayan. Anong gagawin mo para mahanap si AC prime? Okay? So, itong gagawin mo. Di ba meron tayong equation kanina na length is equal to AC plus YB? I-derivative mo siya, makuha ka ng L prime is equal to 0 is equal to AC prime plus YB prime. Ginagawa mo na yun, pwede ba nang mahanap si AC? Finding AC. AC prime. Yan. So, AC squared is equal to XA squared plus 30. So, naka-square siya, diba? So, gawin na natin. I-derivative natin siya. So, magiging 2AC tapos, siyempre, meron pang AC prime. Tapos, ganun din kay XA squared. So, 2XA XA prime plus 0 kasi derivative constant. Tapos, AC prime is equal to XA transpose lang. XA VA over AC. So, pag ginawa mo yun, makakuha mo na si VB. Kuha mo na yung VB mo, which is 0. Bali, substitute mo lang yung XA VA over AC. Ayan na. Tapos, makakuha mo na. Makuha mo siya as 0.8568 meters per second. Then, meron kang 0 equals XA VA over AC plus VB. So, nakuha yun. Makukuha mo siya sa S prime mo. S prime equals XA VA over S. Bali, equate mo siya sa 0. So, magiging 0 equals XA VA over S plus VB. Kasi, substitute lang ulit. So, yung VB mo, ay 0.789 meters per second. Yun yung final answer. Final answer. Hindi ko pala na-highlight. Ayan. Yan. So, next is yung force and acceleration. Okay. Force and acceleration. So, in the situation is Mr. Villahermosa is pulling his box delivered from Lazada from the first floor of their house. This is the box being heavy. It is being pulled in an inclined plane of 20 degrees inside their house. The box weighs approximately 70 kilograms. If it is being pulled at 200 newtons, find the magnitude of the acceleration of the box. The coefficient of kinetic friction between the block and plane is mk. equals 0.35. 0.35 yung NK mo. So, ayan. So, yung solution dito is mag-summation of Fy ka lang and Fx. So, mag-summation of Fy ka para mahanap yung normal mo, yung normal force mo. Which is, say, summation Fy equals 0. So, ano yung mga forces mo sa Y? Yung normal force minus W cosine nt. Minus kasi pababa yung weight mo, lagi lang siyang pababa, diba? So, substitute mo lang yung given W, which is yung given W ko 70. So 70 times 9.81 cosine 20. So yung N mo magiging 645.187 newtons. So ito yung normal force mo. Tapos, after finding the normal force, pwede ka na mag-summation of Fx equals 0. So, 200. Lahat ng forces sa x, so meron kang 200, which is yung pag-pull dun sa box, 200 newtons lang. Minus yung friction mo, which is negative dapat. So, magiging 0.35 times 645. Multiply mo din sa 645.287 na normal force. Tapos sine 20. Sine, bakit sine? Kasi cosine yung horizontal, diba? So yung tama niya is pag ganun, yung vertical, pag ganun yung friction niya. Tapos ayun, 645.287 kasi ay friction, kasi yung normal force niya dapat perpendicular, diba? So dito din sa Fx, so kaya siya naging sine, kailangan perpendicular pa rin siya sa Fx. So sine, which is magiging vertical pa, vertical na siya. So sine 20 equals 70 times 8. Ayan. So yung A mo, yung acceleration is 1.754 meters per second squared. Yun lang. Next, kakaroon ka ng work. Dito sa work, sabi dito, a dog is sliding down a slippery ramp that has an incline of 35 degrees. 35 degrees time. Okay. So the mass of the dog is 33 kilograms and coefficient of friction ay 0.28. The entire ramp is 2 meters long and the dog reached the end of that said ramp. Determine the work done on the dog by all forces. So, ang gagawin mo dito, kunin mo muna yung summation ng y mo, lahat ng forces sa y. So, ito, n minus mg cosine 35 or weight times cosine 35 kung anong gusto mo. Tapos magiging yung normal force mo 265.184 newtons. Ayan yung normal force mo. Tapos yung FF mo, which is yung friction mo, friction, so 0.28 times 401.8. 401.8 sa nanggaling. Ayan, grabe, sobrang dami ng typo dito. So 0.28 times 74.252 is equal. So balik mo lang yung friction force mo. So 0.28 times 74.252 times 265.184 times dun sa normal force na nakuha mo. So bali sa coefficient kinetic friction times dun sa normal force mo, which is 265.184, makakuha mo sa is 74.252 newtons. Ayan, so yung WW mo, was negative daw, diba? Tapos yung WF mo ay positive. Therefore, W total mo is equal sa WF minus WW. So, yung weight ng friction tapos yung weight ng work. Yan. Yung work ng friction minus yung work noong W. Tapos, so, since yung solving muna natin isa-isa. So, solving for WF is equals typo ulit. So, 74 point yung weight ng friction mo para makuha mo siya. So, bali, friction force times yung distance times D, which is 2 meters daw yung entire ramp, diba? So, ganun kaaba yung magiging friction mo. So, 74.252 times 2, kuha mo sagot ay 148.504 joules. Tapos WW equals itong work naman. Yung work na itong isa, so meron pa negative 33 times 9.81 times 1.147. Ayan. Ayan. So, yung 1.147. Yung 1.147 mo dito, makukuha mo siya by using yung SOHCAHTOA, which is sine yung makukuha mo dito. So, sine 35 ay, 35 yun.
Tapos mag-bomber, low yan.
And so, sine 35 degrees is equal sa y times yung distance mo or yung hypotenuse mo. So, katawa. So, which is 2. Makukuha mo sagot ay 1.147. So, dun lang galing 1.147. So, yung WW mo, pag ginawa mo equation, maybe negative 371.318. So, W total na lang. So, since meron tayong WF, yung relationship na WF minus WW. So, 225.008 minus hindi siya 225. Wait, sorry. Magiging 148.504 minus itong 371.318. Makuha mo sagot ay 148.524 371.318 negative 222.814 joules. So, and wait lang, pagawin ko na ito. 148.514. Yan. So, last problem yung impulse. Okay. Impulse. So, yung situation. In a random day, Andre decided to have a bowling date with her girlfriend. During his turn, he lifted an 8-pound ball and threw it with a force of 10 pounds horizontally on a frictionless surface. The ball has an initial velocity of 10 foot per second and hit the bowling pins after 3 seconds. What is the final velocity of the ball during the collision? So, formula lang ng impulse. Formula ng impulse ay mv initial plus impulse is equal to mv final. So, meron kang given na initial velocity, meron kang given na mass. So, substitute lang. Although careful doon sa initial velocity mo kasi 10 foot per second, tapos ang final answer natin dapat ay meters per second. So, kailangan mo siya i-divide sa 32.2. So, ang final equation mo ay dapat magiging 8/3 32.2 times 10 plus 10 times 3. Bakit 10 times